especially when that desire is there, we're willing to push that aside because we're like, oh, but look over here. There are all these other things that are so nice and blooming and everything else. And that one voice says, look over here. There's something sticky over here.
Lots of people claim to be intuitive or have intuition. So they know things about people around them that they can't logically explain. So first of all, is intuition real? And if so, how do we tap into it?
Well, first of all, from my perspective, intuition is completely real. And it's not just a women are intuitive or some people have these gifts. Everybody has the ability to tap into the universal consciousness that's out there to get the answers that they're looking for. And there's scientific background behind that too. Studies have shown that people have emotional responses to certain images up to 5 seconds before they're displayed in front of them. So we have this inner knowing and we can all tap into it. Now, the first thing that I hear from people is, well, how do I develop this muscle? I know I can get to it. How do I get there? The first step for me is de-stressing. So one of the exercises that I give people that are interested, that's very, very basic to tapping into your intuition, is asking yourself a question. So I do something simple, like I'll say, put your hand in your purse and ask where your chapstick is. So I won't look, I won't ruffle around my huge purse. I'll just say, where's my chapstick? And I'll pull my hand in, and 9 times out of 10, I go right to it and I pull it out. That builds trust. And once you learn to ask when you're in a receptive state, and then trust that you're gonna get the answer, it'll start coming to you, and you could start moving on to bigger and bigger things.
Oh my God, I think you should sell that tip alone about the purse, because my purse is always a disaster, and I need that one.
When Marconi said we could send sound to the invisible molecules in the air, he was put in prison for it. So the idea that intuition is really our non-linear intelligence system. We have a logical intelligence system, which depends on data and history. And then we have a nonlinear intelligence system, which is our intuition, which is knowing things that we have no experience in our data system on. So I love your exercise with the chapstick. When people ask me, how do I know which voice I'm hearing from? The voice that is this, it just is it, how do I know it's my intuition? And my training for my clients is that if you picked up the phone and it was the love of your life or your best friend, would you know their voice? And the answer is yes. But you didn't know it the first time you heard it. You got interested in it. And because you got interested, you invested. And because you were invested, you learned the tone of that voice. And your intuition is never frantic and it's never critical. It's just a simple knowing. You can choose to ignore it, you can choose to listen to it. Almost everybody I talk to, if I say, have you ever known something that you didn't act on and you regretted it? You didn't have any way of knowing it, but you knew it. Everybody in the audience will raise their hand. So my advice to my clients is just get to know that and then take a step. Take the step. Is taking your umbrella? No, it's all blue skies. I'm not taking my umbrella. But go ahead and just trust and take a step. So I love your exercise with the chapstick.
I think there's 2 things that also occur. One is from the book Blink from Malcolm Gladwell, where he has countless examples of how this actually happens and people actually have their intuition that informs us. So as I think that we trust ourselves the slowest and we're so willing to rely on other people the fastest. And if you actually understand the speed of trust, part of trusting that intuitive voice is actually first paying attention to it and understanding, okay, it sounds matter of fact, and let me think about what's happening. Because I think what happens to a lot of people is they'll get the hit, they'll get the message, and then they'll say, oh no, that can't be true. Because either they don't want it to be true, or they're seeing other things and they're trying to reconcile them, almost like a mathematical equation. There are certain things that I believe your intuition identifies in the lens that you're looking through. And it will actually shine a spotlight on what you really need to be seeing and paying attention to. And it's that piece that many times, especially when that desire is there, we're willing to push that aside because we're like, oh, but look over here. There are all these other things that are so nice and blooming and everything else. And that one voice says, look over here. There's something sticky over here.
I was a person who's kind of skeptic about it. So when you look at it, when you talk about trusting your intuition, that's where I had a lot of struggle with trusting that intuition. And I like to look at it as a spirit of discernment. And that's how I've learned to work with it. But I believe it is something that needs to be developed. And one of the things that I learned was spending time in meditation and allowing yourself to be in that moment with just yourself. And as you do that and you focus, Dr. Charles Stanley has an excellent CD that he had on biblical meditation that I used. And as I go through it and learn how to spend that time in that moment, that's when I started allowing myself to say, okay, I can have discernment. I can have this intuitive feeling. We're always taught, trust your gut, Trust your gut in the military. You got to make that decision, trust your gut. But it's something that, it is there. And you have to develop it. And you have to allow yourself to trust it and experiment and take the risk with it. Because you don't know until you can turn to somebody and say, if you don't mind, can I, tell you something I've been feeling and, correct me if I'm wrong. And as you start to have that validated, you will trust your intuition or discernment more and more.
So what we've learned today about intuition, or what some of us call an inner voice, a gut feeling, is that it's never critical, it's never frantic, it's something that we all have. And in order to tap into it, we might just have to sit in meditation, listen quietly, and develop interest in that voice. That's the voice that's going to guide us, and we all have it.